I am Herb Schoenfeld, President of the Homeowners Association. At this time, I would like to introduce the other members of the HOA board and whoever else up on the stage. Joe Perry, our treasurer. Fred Werfel, vice president. Jack Solomon's director. Michael Yes, the director. Please, let's try to be kind. Bob Rash, a member of our community and on our STP committee. Steve Swirsky, our secretary. And Richard Hamburger, the HOA attorney. And in the background, our moderator is Jay Rosen, who will be handling the meeting later. Susan Soltz is not able to be here this evening due to a previous commitment, but she will be here next Monday evening, December 1st, for the second night of our STP informational meetings. This meeting is being videotaped and we will upload it to YouTube. This gives everybody in Florida, people who cannot make it, a chance to see exactly what's going on tonight. Nothing will be edited. It'll be full-blown. The agenda will be as follows. 30 minutes for the takeover of the STP, followed by 30 minutes against. Following is a 1-hour question and answer period. Each question will be no longer than 1 minute, with no statement preceding the question. The question will be directed to a person or a group, and the answer will be for 2 minutes or less. The other side will then have 2 minutes or less for rebuttal. After the rebuttal is completed, each side will have a 10 minutes concluding statement. I hope you have signed in and taken a card with a number if you'd like to ask questions. We have 2 microphones up front, and when the questions start, we'll call out the numbers and just please line up, and you'll go in order 1, 2, whatever. I think it's 1, 2, 3. At the end of the evening, there'll be a form in the back of the room to give the board an idea against or for the takeover of the STP. That's after you, of course, have heard everything. The county legislator is asking our community to give them a consensus of our feelings. As I said before, Jane Rosen is the queen of moderators, and she's here tonight. And her husband, Hal, is the king of timekeepers. He will be here tonight. At this time, I would like to introduce an important individual who is with us this evening. He's a very fine and hard-working county legislator who is working for, whatever, or against helping us in this situation. Steve Stern, if you'd like to come up and say hello, I'd appreciate it.
Hello? Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Even all the way in the back. Herb, thank you. And thank you for having me this evening. I'm your Suffolk County legislator, Steve Stern. It's really a pleasure for me to be here with all of you tonight. And I thank you. I thank the HOA and everybody involved for having this important session to make sure that all of us have the accurate information that we all need to be able to participate in a meaningful way, to make an informed decision, and most importantly, to be able to participate and make all of your voices heard. I have with me this evening my Chief of Staff, Debbie Harris is here. She has information about the next upcoming public hearing that we're going to have at the Suffolk County Legislature. Many of you hopefully received the notice that we had sent out a couple days by email. We had it going out in hard mail as well. Again, we wanted to make sure that everyone in the community knew about all the steps that were being taken, had the accurate information, and again, making sure that everybody has the opportunity to be heard. I also have with me this evening, Gil Anderson is in the back. Mr. Anderson is the commissioner of the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. I felt it was important to have him on hand to be able to answer any technical questions that anybody from the audience or anybody making presentations might have. Again, to make sure that everybody has the accurate information to make an informed decision. Okay, so information that we'll be distributing, information that you're going to get from us in the mail, make sure that everybody has that opportunity to be heard and let us know your feelings on this very important issue. And let me wish all of you and your families a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving holiday. I will be in the back to answer any questions at the end if you have any questions for me, but it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tonight we're here to discuss the pros and cons of taking over our sewer treatment plant. Please listen to the speakers and give them the courtesy they deserve. Our attorney for the Greens, Richard Hamburg, will speak to you now in that capacity as our attorney for the Homeowners Association. After he speaks, we'll move on to the meeting, and Jane Rosen will take over at that point. Richard?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Hamburger. I'm counsel to the HOA. I'm not here speaking for or against HOA ownership of the sewer treatment plant. I'm here to bring you up to date on what's happening with the legislature, to give you my opinion about some of the legal issues that have arisen, and to give a brief background to it. But I'm not advocating for or against it, and I'm not arguing the benefits or the risks. That's for the board members and for your discussion. The Suffolk County Legislature is holding public hearings, as you've heard, on the creation of the sewer district. The first hearing was November 18th. The next hearing is December 2nd. If approved, the sewer district might be in place as early as January 1st, 2015. With a sewer district, each unit initially will be charged $479 per year by the county sewer district. It will be billed directly each quarter to the unit owner. If you add all that up, 1,144 units, the total cost everyone would be paying would be $548,000 per year. That would be $112,000 less than the HOA paid to Greens and Half Hollow, the sponsor, before the county, at the request of the Greens, fixed a rate of $270 per unit in October of 2012. So the county rate would be an overall savings of $112,000. Although the rate is fixed at $270 per unit, because the sponsor was sending, sending a single bill to the HOA, that cost was being charged back in your association dues. Because different units pay different amounts because the different sizes, it wasn't paid equally. So under the county sewer regime, everybody, no matter what their size, pays $479. If the HOA owns the plant and incorporates the costs into your assessments, your monthly dues, villas will pay more than Mirasols will be paid more than Medici's, and Medici's will pay more than apartments. With the sewer district, the county will be responsible for all the costs of every kind, all of them, except if repairs are necessary to the individual unit sewer line from, let's say, your kitchen or your bathroom or your toilet to the main. The county will be responsible for everything else. Those individual unit line costs would be an expense of the HOA. The county states that the sewer rates will increase under their program 3% annually. Never more, but also never less. And that's not special to the Suffolk County sewer district they're creating here. That's the way it works with all of the districts that they create. They have a sewer stabilization fund, which is partially funded by the rates they'll be collecting from the Greens, which is used to support those sewer districts that may not be breaking even, that may be in a deficit. So because of that sewer stabilization rate, which also collects money from the sales tax and currently has a balance of about $150 million in it, they say they'll never raise it more and they'll never raise it less because the sewer stabilization fund is there to deal with any cost overruns they may have. Now, the sponsor first offered the sewer treatment plant to the HOA after we successfully, in October 2012, prevailed upon the county to set a rate based upon the cost data that had been presented to it. That rate was a 53% reduction of what the sponsor was charging us. At that time, the sponsor said, well, we don't want the plant anymore, you take it to the HOA. And the board retained the engineering firm of H2M to inspect the plant and estimate the future operating and capital costs. No action was taken by the board at that time to move further toward the possibility of acquiring the plant. In June 2014, I received notice from the sponsor's attorney that the plant would be abandoned, unilaterally abandoned, on July 18, 2014. I brought that to the board's attention, and the idea of HOA ownership was again discussed and revived. At its June 12, 2014 board meeting, the board established an ad hoc STP committee to investigate the possibility of HOA acquisition, ownership operation, and also hired an engineering firm that specialized in these sewer treatment plants, Michael Chiarelli, to study the possible HOA takeover and advise the committee on the benefits and the risks. The sponsor did not abandon the plant on July 18, but instead pushed off that threatened date by a month to August 18, 2014. When that date arrived, however, I received notice that the abandonment threat had been withdrawn. It was at that time, August 8, 2014, that I learned for the first time that the sponsor was working with the county to establish a sewer district. I was told that the sponsor said it would not abandon the plant so long as the county continued cooperating and working with the sponsor toward the establishment of the sewer district. Since then, I've been in close contact with the county about the future of the STP, with Legislator Stern's office and with some representatives of the DPW. One issue I repeatedly discussed with the county was the requirement in the Speedies permit. The Speedies permit is a permit that's issued by the state to sewer treatment plant, allowing it to operate and requiring it to operate within certain tolerances that the effluent has to satisfy in order to be discharged back into the ground. One issue I repeatedly discussed with the county was the requirement in the Speedies permit and the STP agreement between the county and the sponsor that the sponsor maintain a reserve and transfer it to the county at the time that dedication by the county is accepted. That's when the plant will be transferred to the county. The county has fixed that reserve amount at $425,000. That's the county's number. I wanted to know if the sponsor would transfer that $425,000 to the county in connection with the sewer district, and if they were willing to do that, why they wouldn't also transfer that $425,000 to the HOA if the HOA agreed to take ownership and operate the plant. The answer was always that the sponsor was not going to turn over any reserve fund, although the county would keep pressing to try and secure the sponsor's turnaround on that issue. At the public hearing on November 18th, which is just last week, however, the sponsor for the first time, through its representative, told the county that the sponsor was going to turn over $425,000 to the county. Therefore, the HOA expects that if it acquires the sewer treatment plant, it would receive that money as well. In my view, this is the first time that an acceptable potential deal took shape for HOA ownership, involving the transfer of the plant along with the required $425,000 reserve fund, and that happened only last week. Now, it's my legal opinion that the HOA has the legal capacity to own and operate a sewer treatment plant, and that nothing in the organizational documents or in the not-for-profit corporation law would prohibit that. Also, that neither a vote of the membership nor a referendum are legally required. Other relevant legal points. One, the STP, the sewer treatment plant, under the agreement that the sponsor has with the county, is irrevocably offered for dedication to the county. Offered for dedication means that they're offering to the county to take it at any time without payment of any consideration, or payment of any money. It's an irrevocable offer to the county. The sponsor cannot force the county to accept that dedication. It's up to the county to make the decision to accept the dedication. On the other hand, the county cannot compel the sponsor to transfer the sewer treatment plant to the HOA. So it's all negotiation. And if the sponsor were to abandon the sewer treatment plant, that would be a violation of the Speedies permit, the permit issued by the DEC to the sponsor, and the DEC has issued a letter notifying the sponsor that if the sponsor unilaterally went ahead and abandoned the plant, as had been threatened on multiple occasions over the course of the summer, that the DEC would impose daily fines of $37,500 against the sponsor. That's the background. Thank you.
I had one question. One question.
When we get to the question and answer period, Richard will take questions. There will be just one side of us. He'll just give the answer. He's not working for either side. He's working for the Greens community. At this point, Jane, do you want to come here?
Okay, I'm afraid to go too close to the stairs. And forgive my glasses, but I'm not used to being on stage. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. All right. So you've gotten some facts, and you know my approach to doing the moderation. Some of you have heard it before. I have this attachment to the R's. Respect, reason, and responsibility. So we are going to all respect each other, be polite. We have a responsibility to make the questions clear. They are questions and not statements. Before that, you may have your questions answered because the pro sewer treatment plant being taken over by the HOA will have 30 minutes to speak, and then those against it, the leaders of that group, will have 30 minutes to speak. I'll remind you of the time limits of the questions when we get to that. How many people are speaking for the pro?
Pro?
Yeah, who's speaking for the pro?
Oh, pro?
Pro. Five people. I hope you've allocated the time so that everybody has a turn, because after 30 minutes, I will cut you off. Politely, but I will cut you off. The same thing, how many people are speaking for the con?
So far, there are two. However, we're not going to take the entire 30 minutes. We would welcome the input from anybody else who wants to speak.
But within 30 minutes, you have 2 people or 3 people?
We have 2 people, but we're inviting anybody else who feels that they would like to speak to fill in the additional time.
Okay, when we come to that, we'll see. All right. So, who is first? Okay, Fred Gorfel, member of the board.
Good evening, friends and neighbors, and thank you for coming tonight to learn about the sanitary treatment plant. The plant services not only the Greens, but Country Point, which comprises about 72 homes, Duncan Elders, which is a senior residential rental community of 100 units, Sagamore Psychiatric Center, which houses beds for developmentally disabled children, several homes on the Sagamore development property that also houses developmentally disabled adults. I'm a licensed professional engineer, and along with Joe Perry, we are the board members who oversaw the committee formed by the board to perform due diligence on the sanitary treatment plant. And it was an effort to determine the viability of the Greens HOA assuming control of the plant. In addition to Joe and myself, our committee comprises 8 members, residents of our community, some of whom, along with myself, have experience in the design, construction, and operation of sanitary treatment plants. Among the members are Murray Lieberson, who was a senior sewage plumber for the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, Guy Salvata, who's a master plumber licensed throughout the metropolitan area, and who was also formerly associated with New York City DEP, and Robert Resch, a licensed professional engineer, who is a senior project director with URS Corporation, is involved in the design and construction of major power plants. Bob will talk to you soon. Other committee members have related and appropriate business experience to evaluate the physical plan and financial requirements necessary for the operation of the plant. We are a committee of professionals who have the expertise and experience to analyze the pros and cons of assuming control of the plant. Our due diligence included the committee's physical inspection of the plant. We engaged Michael Chiarelli, a licensed professional sanitary engineer, to inspect, investigate, and report on the physical condition of the plant, as well as provide us with estimated costs to operate the plant and replacement costs on critical equipment in the plant, as well as equipment redundancy recommendations. We also utilized condition reports prepared by the engineering firm of H2M, and we visited comparable plants serving an 800-unit residential condominium called Blue Ridge in Medford, along with adjoining Country Point single-family homes and a commercial office building. Their board of managers has successfully operated this facility for over 40 years, and we questioned their management as to their experiences in that operation. We interviewed Severn Trent, the company that is engaged to do the day-to-day operation of the plant, and obtained their experience and recommendations on the plant operation. And finally, we spoke to Suffolk County DPW engineers who inspected the plant and who were extremely helpful in relating their thoughts on the condition and operation. We have contacted the relevant board members of Country Point and the attorney for the owners of Duncan Elders, and received a favorable response in the HOA taking over the plant. You may have received a mass of emails cherry-picking parts of H2M engineer's report that points out the potential for replacement of certain elements and components in the plant. Be assured that we, as well as the engineer we engaged and the Suffolk County DPW, also reviewed that report in detail. If you read the entire H2M report, it gives the plant then, and I quote from the report, above average condition for a facility operating for nearly 10 years, unquote. And for the most part recommends regular scheduled servicing of the components and equipment in the plant as a standard operating procedure for such facilities. Severn Trent has been operating the plant in the most professional, appropriate manner, and all parties, our engineers, our committee, as well as Suffolk County DPW that inspected the facility agreed that it is in excellent condition. The plant will not fail on its 25th birthday, so long as it is properly maintained. And we have allowed sufficient funds and reserves in our projections for operating and capital replacement budgets for such contingencies. Based upon our analysis of the facts and information we gathered, as well as the recommendations of the professionals we engaged, the board's STP committee unanimously agreed that the best course of action for the benefit of all the residents of the Greens and adjoining communities is for the Greens HOA to assume control of the plant. Such assumption of control would save the community over $250,000 annually as compared to Suffolk County assuming the plant. The conditions of our assumption would be comparable to the county's takeover of the plant, and that is the current owner of the plant remit to the Greens HOA the necessary mandated operating and capital reserve funds, which are estimated to be $425,000. Our assumption would also be subject to an acceptable Phase 1 environmental assessment, site assessment of the property. I am in favor of the Greens at Half Hollow HOA assuming control of the sanitary treatment plant. Thank you for your patience and consideration and kind attention.
You have used a little more than 6 minutes of your time.
Good evening, neighbors, friends, fellow stakeholders in our sewage treatment plant. My name is Bob Resch. I'm a licensed professional engineer in New York and New Jersey, and I'm a member of the STP committee. I'm asked to present some of the technical elements associated with the HOA assuming the ownership and oversight of the STP. In doing so, I'll make reference to a report produced by the engineering firm H2M, which was hired by our HOA to evaluate the plant's condition. H2M visited and inspected the plant and issued its report and recommendations in early January 2013. This report has received wide distribution through various emails, and I believe the report was given out tonight. I'm also utilizing a second independent engineer's report, and that of Michael P. Chiarelli, president of Michael P. Chiarelli Engineers, who reviewed the H2M report and accompanied our committee's visit and inspection of the plant on July 1st, 2014. My comments today reflect the H2M report, Chiarelli's report, and our own committee's own observations during the recent visit. My focus today is to comment on some of the concerns expressed to me by several of my neighbors and friends, and I picked up some tonight in the audience. First matter I want to discuss. The H2M report states, I'll read it, that the plant is in above average conditions for a plant operating continuously for the past 10 years. That's the case when they inspected it 2 years ago. It goes on to offer advice on repairs to assure operations for the next 15 years. This statement has been misunderstood to mean that the life expectancy for the STP is 25 years. Since we've been here for 12 years, there's only 13 years left. The assumption is, well, at the end of 13 years, we rip it down, we build a new one for $15 million. That's not the case. Sewage treatment plants with sound, ongoing maintenance programs followed by annual and long-term maintenance plans will operate for many, many years. I'll give a couple examples. The Newtown Creek sewage treatment plant in Red Hook, Brooklyn, went online in 1961. It's still operating. A little closer to home, the Bergen Point sewage treatment plant in the southwestern corner of Suffolk County serves Babylon, parts of the town of Islip, and a southern piece of Huntington was activated in 1981, 34 years ago. As a matter of fact, the sludge that's pumped out of our sewage treatment plant is transported to Bergen Point for its final treatment. So the problem here is the H2M report did not really expand the discussion into the establishment of drawdown and replenishing of equipment repair and replacement funds and the operations funds, which are mandated by the county. We heard tonight that fund amount has been stated, probably agreed to by Kaplan and Benjamin at $425,000. These funds will be used for replacing and rebuilding equipment and for continuing an annual and long-term maintenance program as recommended by H2M and backed up by Chiarelli, our consultant. Our STP committee visited the plant on July 1st, 2014. Our consultant Chiarelli joined us and members of our board on the visit. Chiarelli also reviewed the H2M report and issued his own report with added recommendations to our board. Based on our observations during the visit, we concurred with the H2M earlier report about the above average condition of the plant. We found it to be well laid out, effectively ventilated, odor-free, talking about a sewage treatment plant, and clean. There's no reason why this plant can't operate successfully for the next 35 years and beyond. What do we know about operating a sewage treatment plant? That's a very, very common comment I hear. What does the current owner know about owning and operating a sewage treatment plant? Very little. So he hired an international water and wastewater company, Trent, to operate and maintain the plant for him. Trent is publicly traded on the London Stock Exchange. You can buy stock in Trent over the counter here in New York. They trade at $32.90 on Friday. They operate in Singapore, China, Italy, Ireland, UK, Spain, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the U.S. Very experienced, well-renowned operator of sewage treatment plants. They have other divisions that manufacture pumps and equipment that go into sewage treatment plants. We intend to facilitate a multiple layer of oversight over the operation and maintenance of the plant, which we believe does not currently exist with the current owner. We intend to continue the services of consultant Michael Chiarelli for providing review and oversight of Severn Trent, but we will also continue. The Sewage Treatment Committee will provide oversight of Chiarelli and Severn Trent, a second layer of oversight, and will issue reports and recommendations to the HOA board for its action. Our consultant, Chiarelli, is currently the engineer of record for 63 privately owned and operated sewage treatment plants in Suffolk County. That represents about a third of the privately owned and operated sewage treatment plants in Suffolk. The 27 of the plants that Chiarelli is the engineer of record for are condo communities, including the 800-unit Blue Ridge condominium community in Medford that we visited. We visited as part of our due diligence review. Blue Ridge is another example of a long-term operations for well-maintained wastewater treatment plants. Blue Ridge is celebrating its 40th year. Its sewage plant was constructed by its builder and turned over to the HOA soon after it was activated. It is still owned and operated by its HOA. Operations are subcontracted, and Michael Chiarelli is the engineer of record providing oversight and operations. Another community, two other communities have since tied in to Blue Ridge. A large Country Point community and another, I guess a small office building, have tied into that plant years after the plant was built and went into its initial operations. Next thing I pick up a lot of is what is our risk of underground pipe breaks? American Water Resources summarized findings of various entities related to our U.S. water and wastewater piping infrastructure. A 2012 report from the National Association of Water Companies and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce concluded that the vast majority of the nation's water pipes installed after World War II were in poor shape. A 2012 EPA fact sheet reports the average age of a broken water main in the U.S. is 47 years. Our green sewer lines are around 12 years old. Unlike water mains, our wastewater flows under gravity and not in pressurized pipes. Also, our wastewater lines carry domestic sewage with no industrial or chemical waste. Our lines should remain competent for many, many years. The sewer line from each housing unit to the collection main is the homeowner's responsibility, no matter who owns the sewage treatment plant, whether it's the county or some other owner. For us, this means our HOA is responsible for all the lines that come from our house to the main. One reason for pipelines, underground pipelines breaking or rupturing is tree roots. Sometimes tree roots wrap around these pipes and cause a rupture. Our mains are underneath our roadways and are free and clear from tree roots. Another question that came up was, what about a risk management plan? I think that's a great question and one that we already started considering. The first part of that, I'll talk about redundancy. All full-time rotating parts in the current sewage treatment plant, which are mostly pumps, are backed with redundant equipment. The system that operates the plant automatically switches from the primary pump to the redundant pump back and forth so that they even out the operating hours and extend the life expectancy of the pumps. The committee made a recommendation that there are certain pumps we think, or certain operations we think are critical. I'll give you an example. The main influent pumps outside the plant that receives all the sewage that's coming to it and pumps it into the plant. There's one that's operating and one is standby. We postulated what happens if one pump is removed from the well to service and the other one trips. The whole plant would have to shut down. So we suggested for certain critical pieces of equipment like that we have a shelf pump ready to go in that kind of emergency. There's a few other places in the plant where we think that that's necessary. Chiarelli independently, without even hearing us, came up with the same recommendation, and it is in the budget that he presented. The replacement costs or the additional costs for these pumps are included in his budget and are covered by the current equipment replacement fund. Another comment that came to me was, do we have a risk of explosion? What is the risk of explosions? There is no risk of explosions in this plant. This is a very, very simple sewage treatment plant. It's based on aerobic treatment of the sewage. Aerobic bacteria works in an air environment, oxygen environment. Our plant is, we pump air into our aeration tanks to keep an aerobic bacteria operational and reducing the biodegradable elements in our sewage. There's no chemicals stored in the plant. There's really no, it's clean, there's no chance of dust exposure.
Used up more than half the time, it's 16 plus minutes.
Okay, well then I'll end it right here. The only chemicals we store at the plant, actually not a chemical, diesel fuel for the emergency diesel generator. Thank you.
All right, next speaker will be also from taking over, will be Joe Kerr.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving now, in case we're not talking to each other later. You know, when the politicians in Washington get up in the morning and they go to work, I wonder if they think about the fact that that day they're going to have a debt increase of $4,320 million. Because that's how much the national debt goes up every single day. $3 million a minute. On Long Island, LIPA wasn't able to make it and still can't, and is still asking for more dollars over and over again. The MTA can't make it. They're asking to raise the cost of your transportation and your trains and your buses. Nassau County is under supervision from the state, and they've decided that one of the things they're going to do is sell off all their sewer treatment plants to privatization. That made them $158 million. So right now we have a chance. We have a chance to take control of the plant for ourselves. If we go ahead and lose that chance, Suffolk County may be taking it over. Suffolk County may be only a step away from privatization also, which means we'll then lose complete control. And we'll be subject to somebody else's decisions as to what the costs will be. Jack handed out a very nice sheet, but he left out one column. He left out the column that if you're in a villa, your increase is going to be about 8%. But if you're in one of the quads, your increase is going to be about 77%. But if you're in a condo, your increase is going to be approximately 240%. Those people who need it the most will be penalized the most. If you look at the packet I turned out, there's a budget sheet in there. We had 2 independent contractors come in. In both cases, they estimated that this plant could be run at approximately $315,000 to $320,000. Presently, we're paying approximately $300,000. The situation is that I believe we could reduce that cost to less than we're paying now. Because one of the additional factors that will assist us is the $80,000 that we will be collecting from those ancillary contributors, such as Country Point. And I believe we're going to bring the dollar back under $300,000. I know we're short for time tonight, and this is a lot for you to digest. But in the packet that I've given out, there's a tremendous amount of information. I know we can't go over it all, even with the question and answer period. So, I have set up 10 nights at which I will take groups of 10 or 15 to my house. Pick my wife up, she just passed out. If you feel you would like to be one of those people to discuss the numbers in depth, feel free to give you Maria your number, and I will be calling. This will be starting as of tomorrow, and no, there will be no mini meetings on Thanksgiving Day. But the rest of the time will be available. We have to learn so that we can get ourselves in a good position for December 2nd. That's only next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, we also need a good showing, as we had on the 18th. We need people to come so that the legislatures see that we care. When the time comes tonight, you will have a chance to sign. To sign if you think this is a good idea, if you are for this acquisition. Remember, signing is important. They are looking for the commitment of this community.
Excuse me, we have 8 minutes left and 2 speakers.
I myself am 100% control of the sewer treatment plant. Thank you.
Please, Worsley.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to be really fast, so I leave time for her. I may have been like many of you. Why do this? Okay, but after sitting on these meetings, speaking with engineers, Department of Public Works, there's no question the community should do it. It's our community. It is for our benefit to run this treatment plant, and it's you know, keep an open mind. Listen to what everyone is saying. This is about our community. One way of saying it is right now, you're not really, in a certain way, you're not paying the sewage treatment plant. You're not writing a check. 10 years from now, each one of you will be writing a check for $700, $800. And that's if they keep the 3%. It could be more, who knows? So this is in our interest, okay? And Susan Saltz would like to have a commitment. She couldn't be here. She's in favor of it as I am. So have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Vice Chancellor, President of the HOA. You have 6 minutes.
6 minutes is a lifetime, right? It says 3 minutes. The majority of our HOA board is for the takeover. Our entire SDP committee is for it as well. Our finance committee is probably for it. I didn't get the report from you.
Yes, they voted 100%.
They voted 100% today. They're for it. They went over all the numbers. This is over 20 of your neighbors on different committees in different aspects of this, well-versed and understanding the process. This does not include a poll of condo officers, which would most likely swell the numbers. Are they wrong? I believe they are right. Our community will be hit with an additional sewer charge of $247,946, bring our total over $550,000 for the year. This increase brings us no additional services. What does this mean? On December 31st, as the county takes over, you go to sleep after having a very nice New Year's Eve. You get up the next morning, you're spending $250,000 more for no additional services. That's not a good buy. We have to protect ourselves, protect our own interests. Let's look at the catastrophe we talked about. If we don't pay the $250,000 for 5 years, we've just saved the community $1,250,000. If I went to you, if we used all the reserves, if everything was gone, which is never going to happen, and I asked you to give me $150 each because we had a $250,000 problem, we still saved $1 million in that 5 years. It's a win for us. I don't see it any other way. We're interested in health, safety, controlling our costs. That's what we are. We're the largest contributor. We have the right to own this, we have the right to run it. It's our vested interest. We have a fiduciary responsible of this board to do what is right for this community. Assuming we didn't do this, stop it. Who would come out of the woodwork and say, you just cost me $250,000, why are you doing that? So we're in a no-win situation. So we're doing this thing that we believe is right for the community. Take over the plan. It is our best interest. Thank you.
There's 4 minutes to spare. Okay, it's now time for the people who are against taking over the plan to speak first. Jack, you speaking first? Jack Solomon?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Thanksgiving. My name is Jack Solomon. I would like to put in evidence right now that Mike and I, in a 2-day period of telephoning and emails, received 200 emails against taking over the sewer treatment plant.
Hold on a second. Can you hear him in the back?
Yes.
There's something to say no.
Yes.
Close to your mouth.
Yes.
I would just like to comment on the fact, just one thing before I go into my municipalities are immune to insurance. Privately owned sewer treatment plants are not. I have here H2M, Mr. Weiss's engineering report. I put it out in an email as to everything that was wrong with our sewer treatment plant, as is in here, that many things are past the manufacturer's warranty, including many of the motors, the filters, and not getting enough chemicals. They only took off 100 leaching field covers. They left 187 on. They couldn't inspect them because of the overgrowth. They couldn't get to them. Now, we'd never be here tonight if it wasn't for myself. This board was not around at the time that I was on the board with another board. The only person that was there was Richard Hamburger. And what I did one night was I took out one page of the offering. You all have the same page in all your offerings. And it says, the applicant will upgrade the existing sewer treatment facility, and the approximately 15.5-acre site will be dedicated to the Suffolk County Department of Public Works to operate and maintain the facility. I'm sorry, that was not in your offering. I take that back. That was in a resolution 2006-61, which I obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. That was September 12, 2000, by Councilman, endorsed by Councilman Steve Israel, Supervisor Patron, and all the members of the town board were for that. That's right here for anybody to look at. But if you do look in your offering, it does say, water and sewage, water for the homes will be supplied by the South Huntington Water District and will be a common expense. Sewage in the community will flow into an on-site sewer treatment facility to be constructed by the sponsor, which will be dedicated to an agency of Suffolk County. That's what our bylaws say. Now, having brought these two pieces of paper about almost 3 years ago to the board at that time with Richard Hamburger, Richard Hamburger jumped on it and said, we can own this sewer treatment plant and make money with it because we have 130,000 gallons of excess capacity and we can sell it to connectees. Well, where are you going to get 1,000 more condominiums that are going to be built around our area? And his answer was, well, maybe in 5 or 10 or 15 years. I don't think he will say that I'm telling a falsehood because I am not. Also, I believe that We don't have the right to bring this to a vote because we bypassed many steps. We don't have a right to expand or to contract. And I will read 3 pages that I gave as a one is on page 234, section 11 of the condo bylaws. All of the powers granted to the Board of Managers in connection with repairs and replacements of the common elements by this declaration, including but not limited to the power to make additions or improvements to the common elements, repairs, maintenance, and replacements to the common elements, collecting assessments, and enforcing the obligations, house rules and regulations set forth in the declaration or bylaws, or borrowing money to pay for such work shall remain the obligation of the Board of Managers, not the Board of Directors, the Board of Managers, but shall be performed by the Board of Directors of the association as the irrevocable appointed managing agent of the Greens at Half Hollow Condominium 3. Now, under amendments, Article 8, I hate to read the whole thing, but I have to. These bylaws may be altered, amended, or added to at any duly called homeowners meeting, provided 1, that the notice of the meeting shall contain a full statement of the proposed amendments. 2, that the amendment shall be approved by 66 2/3 consent of the homeowners in number and common interest. And 3, said amendment shall be set forth in a duly recorded amendment to the declaration. That means that you have to record it with the Suffolk County Clerk. However, no amendment will affect or impair the validity or propriety of the homeowner's interest and the interest of holders of a mortgage encumbering the home or homes. In addition, in the case of material changes, this means gazebos, not sewer treatment plants. In addition, in the case of material changes, approval must be obtained from first mortgage holders representing at least 51% of the votes of homes that are subject to first mortgages. A change to any of the following would be considered as material: voting rights, assessments, assessment liens, subordination of assessment liens, reserves or maintenance, repairs and replacement of common areas, responsibility for maintenance and repairs, allocation of interest in the general or limited common areas or rights to their use, boundaries of any home, convertibility of homes into common areas or vice versa. Expansion or construction of the project or the addition, annexation, or withdrawal of property to or from the project, insurance of fidelity bonds, leasing of homes, imposition of any restrictions on a homeowner's right to sell or transfer his or her unit, a decision by the condominium to establish self-management has been previously required by an eligible mortgage holder, restoration of the repair of the project after a hazardous damage or partial condemnation in a manner other than that specified in the documents, any action to terminate the legal status of the project after substantial destruction or condemnation occurs.
Remember, excuse me, the R that needs respect.
Pardon?
Someone is still speaking. Thank you.
Article 13, very short, amendments. Except as otherwise provided, these bylaws may be altered, amended, or added to any duly called meeting of association members, provided 1, that notice of the meeting shall contain a full statement of the proposed amendment, and 2, that the amendment shall be approved by vote of at least 66 2/3 of the total members of homes are then subject to the declaration. Now, Joe talked about the apartments being hit hard, and they are being hit hard. And I am for having this divvied up on a per capita basis rather than a per 30 basis as it is now. I think maybe something could be worked out where we could all pay an equal amount of our water. However, Joe doesn't tell you that the driveways that he's doing, the 300 villas that will be ripped up, the 96 quads that will be ripped up will cost us $3,180,000, and 468 apartments do not have driveways.
Respect and responsibility do not mean you call out from the audience that this is a ball game. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for attending. As you know, my name is Michael Gessner, and I am positively against the HOA taking over the sewer treatment plant. Before I go into my prepared remarks, I would like to clarify one remark that Jack Solomon has made with regard to private STP's operations. That private STP operations are not subject to immunity from lawsuits, but in contrast, the county is immune from such lawsuits. I think that's what Jack was trying to express. Now, you've heard a lot of, again, before I go into my major speech, you've heard a lot of expertise here. You've heard a lot of scare tactics, and in my opinion, you've heard a lot of propaganda. What I'm going to ask now, because there was an outburst when Jack was speaking, is simply this. When Jack was speaking, some people interrupted and were rude. Now, I don't care what you think of me, but some of your neighbors have come here and are interested in hearing what it is that I have to say. So at least have the common decency and courtesy to show respect and keep the decorum. One of the things I like to contradict is the expertise that was presented to you. There's one major thing that's missing with regard to the expertise that was presented here. The major thing that's missing with regard to what they stated is the lack of a crystal ball. Here's what they asked me. What do we know? It's the wrong question. The major question should be, what don't we know? This plant is 12 years old. It has a shelf life of 25. Some people are quoting other plants in other parts of the country that may have a longer shelf life, but what we know from the builder is that the expected plant life of our particular plant, which I believe is the one that we're speaking about, is 25 years. One of the scare tactics that was used was the announcement that one sector is going to face a 240% increase. That is very misleading, because if you break it down to a monthly basis, which I have in my prepared remarks, the average fee per month, and what we're talking about, is $17.42. Now, there will be some disparity, which was addressed at the Suffolk County Legislative Meeting. I have the minutes of the Suffolk County Legislative hearing, and what they suggested at that hearing is that if there is a large disparity, since the HOA now does try to make it more even and equal, that the HOA dues could be adjusted somewhat so that there is no disparity, and it wouldn't involve a lot of money, not when you're talking about $17 and change a month. Some mention was made of the fact that Country Point is currently contributing, is going to contribute $80,000, and that $80,000 is going to help with the expenses. Well, the fact of the matter is that there are 5 connectees, and they all pay in right now. So the fact that Country Point is going to pay in the future, of course, is totally meaningless and irrelevant. you've heard a lot. You've heard a lot about the committees are 100% for this and 100% for that. That's very interesting. Only one person in this community selects 100% of the people who are on the committees, and that's Herb Schoenfeld. I'm going to go into my prepared remarks now. Can you hear me now? Prior to being on the Greens HOA, I served on the HOA in Stonehill, Manhasset for 11 years. I was re-elected 4 times, and I learned some very harsh lessons about integrity. When I moved into the Greens, I was sure that I would never get into politics again. Unfortunately, when I saw the constant appearance of impropriety, I decided to run, and I was elected. I'd like to now get into the merits of the actual fees that have been spoken about.